Hello, welcome to the Mediocre Takes podcast, the podcast where we talk about our mediocre takes on the shows and movies we watch. I'm Marco and I'm here with my co-host Mel. How are you doing, Mel?
I think I need to pee.
Go pee. Go piss, girl.
I'm gonna go piss.
Okay, so today is a special episode, you guys. We finally hit 500 plays. Currently at 565 plays, so yay. Basically, we promised that when we hit 500 plays, we would talk about Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, the web series. And when we hit 1,000 plays, we'll talk about Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, the TV show. So today we're going to be talking about the web series real quick. Also, I just want to say, since Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared is Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, instead of explaining it like I usually do, I found the fan wiki which explains it in extreme detail, because I know for a fact that I couldn't explain it in extreme detail like I want to. So I'm basically using the plot explanation from the wiki. So if you want to find the plot explanation, it's on the fandom wiki, I think.
Thanks, fans.
Thanks, fans. Yeah, thank you guys. No, they're not our fans. They're our listeners.
Every person who's watched Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared also listens to this podcast.
Yeah. Alright, so episode 1. The sketchbook says that its favorite idea is being creative, and Yellow Guy, interested in creativity, asks how he gets the idea. The sketchbook says that try to think creatively and look at this orange, and the puppets get confused because they don't see anything. The notepad says it's an orange with a happy face walking around, but Duck doesn't understand this. Sketchbook tells him that he isn't thinking creatively. The sketchbook exposes its hair to the puppets, saying it uses its hair to express itself. Red Guy isn't interesting, causing the sketchbook to repeat what it said in an annoyed way. The sketchbook questions if they are excited by staring at the clouds in the sky. They reply with a simple no. Sketchbook convinces them to take another look, and when they do, they see the clouds resemble certain objects. Sketchbook claims that it thinks that they are getting the hang of it. Yellow Guy paints a picture of a clown, which was ruined by Sketchbook, who pours oil onto it. The puppets, instructed by the sketchbook, arrange leaves and sticks into their favorite colors. Yellow Guy's favorite color is green, is dissed by Sketchbook, saying green is not a creative color. Sketchbook tells them to listen to their heart. The puppets start to become creative by creating arts and crafts, glitter, and letters. Red Guy covers a heart with glitter, and Yellow Guy begins dancing aggressively. Red Guy and Duck begin to dance along with Yellow Guy, but in reality, the puppets are seen as going insane as the sketchbook watches. Duck cuts a slice of cake which has a pig heart inside it. An organ slides inside a mouse hole. Yellow Guy is seen shaking uncontrollably again. In reality, Duck is shocked and Yellow Guy is confused about what happened earlier. Sketchbook, who is also shocked, tells them to agree to never be creative again. Okay, so I know there are a lot of people who say the web series is very British, but I will say the TV series is more British than this. I love how the series starts off with seeming normal until the oil shows up and ruins the painting. Also, I never knew that what was inside the cake was a pig heart. That's wild. I like how the sketchbook acts awkwardly when Red Guy says that's boring or something like that. I like it when the people and the puppets start dancing and it looks like they're just going mad. That's funny. So I believe in the media theory, but I'm going to be honest with you. But I consider Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, the TV show, and Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, the web series to be completely different entities or timelines or something like that. So the media theory about this show makes complete sense to me, and I consider the TV show a different separate theory. Basically, I think this web series is about actors in a kids TV show, and it's about showing how advertising is evil and bad. And in this episode, we see recording equipment when the animation starts popping up and it shifts. We see a recording set and it says Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared 1 or something like that.
The vibrations of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared are immaculate. I absolutely love all the work that was put into this, with all the props and the costumes that had to be handmade, and all those short little animation parts made just to create a 2-minute film. All those things added up and it just made it so charming. As someone who grew up on Happy Tree Friends, I love animation and films that disguise themselves as children's program. I love horror and stuff like that, and honestly, anything that has to do with children is inherently creepy. Showing someone the Baby Shark song is a violation against the Geneva Convention, and CoComelon is a psychological thriller. So I feel the structures of children's show are a great pathway to creating anything unnerving, honestly. I don't know anything about the media theory, but it makes sense, and I feel like a fake children's program is a great way to show that. Yeah, this is like 2 minutes long, but I feel like the pacing was great. Like, it starts off completely normal. The scenes where they're saying the shapes in the clouds are, and how they're all just like small words that rhyme. It's so indicative of a children's show that like the first time I watched this, it really did like lock me into a false sense of security until I saw the black oil being poured onto a clown, which was also very valid of them to do. And also, this is like peak humor for me. The clown paint scene was funny. The Notebook saying green isn't a creative color is hilarious. Once again, the Notebook is very valid for doing that. I understand that it's like the whole media thing. I agree. It's obvious that they're like trying to like control their thoughts or whatever by being like, no, you don't think that actually. I think we can all agree this song was a banger, and that's another thing that I love about this episode. They managed to create like a generic children's song that was not annoying. Oh yeah, and the scene where the the like heart or whatever that gets sucked into the mouse hole. Ew, it was so gross. It was so I don't know, something about, I don't know if it's real meat they're using or whatever. It looks like props, but whatever they're using, it just looks grosser than any like horror movie I've ever seen. I don't know why. Also, that clarinet solo at the end was fire.
Red Guy tells them to stop mucking around and there's only 5 minutes until their TV show is on. Duck replies to Red Guy that 5 minutes isn't enough time. Tony the talking clock comes to life and says there's always time for a song. Tony then begins to dance and sing, telling the puppets where time can be placed, such as a wall or a wrist. Tony tells the puppets that the past is far behind them and the future doesn't exist. Yellow Guy asks Tony what the time is, and he replies by saying it's 9:15. He says it's time to take a bath. Duck insists that they're already clean, but Tony ignores him and scrubs Yellow Guy until the water is brown. He only tells them that time goes one way and cannot go in reverse. He tells the puppets to go on a journey through time, but Red Guy tells him that he and the other puppets don't want to go and that they will miss their show if they do. Tony tells them to not be stupid and to go back in time anyways, and they see what it was like in the past. Yellow Guy finds a tree with circles inside, and Tony later finds a tree that is old and has died. Tony tells them that time can be told by the moon or the sun, and that time flies fast when they have fun. Duck, who is about to finish a stack of cards, is then ruined by Tony. The puppets give out examples of when having fun is allowed, and Yellow Guy says that he's friends with his dad, who growls angrily. Red Guy asks Tony what happened after the old days. Roy is seen looking at an explicit website, and Yellow Guy says that his dad has a computer, and his father growls once again. Tony appears on the computer and tells Yellow Guy to look at the time. Fish can be seen on plates and scattered everywhere in the room. Tony tells them how time can be useful, and the puppets ask when time began and when will it end. Tony tells them that time is important and that he is only a clock. Red Guy and the other puppets begin to question time, which angers Tony. He begins to beep loudly, and everyone except Yellow Guy covers their ears, making Yellow Guy's ears bleed. The clock tells them how strange it is and how time makes their appearance change. Yellow Guy looks in the mirror and his appearance changes. Red Guy's hair grows longer, and the flesh on Duck's left hand begins to melt off. Yellow Guy lets out a cry. Tony just stands there and watches as the puppets suffer, and Duck's left hand becomes nothing but bones. Red Guy notices that his hair is getting more frail. The puppets' appearances begin to get worse. Tony tells them that he's only a clock and they'll be fine eventually, but everyone runs out of time, which means that everyone will die. As the camera zooms out, it reveals Duck's eyeball laying next to the TV with a picture of a non-existent future on the wall. Red Guy shuts off the TV, and that's the end of the episode. Okay, so one clue that we get that the characters are actually actors in this episode is that we hear Red Guy say that, "Who is that?" to the camera when the clock shows up. I never knew his name was Tony, so that's cool. I find it funny when they show the swastika in this episode when Duck Guy is trying to share his idea of time. It's a nice touch and I find it kind of funny. I love the different animation styles in this episode. Animation is expensive, so I know it costs them a lot of money for a little bit of animation, and I appreciate it. I don't know how much money these episodes cost, but man, are they really well done. I like it when the clock sings time over and over again. Like, the fish part was so random, and I wonder why they chose to go that route. Also, Yellow Guy gets a glow up in this episode. I don't know if you noticed this. The puppet they use changes over this episode compared to the last one, and I like the new look in this one. I think it's the difference is the mouth part. Like, the mouth part is less wrinkled or something. And I love it when the clock looks at the puppets dying. He looks so menacingly. I love this episode and the messaging that everyone runs out of time.
I just want to make this clear that my thoughts and my notes on this series do not take into account the media theory. I didn't really think about the possible message of the whole series until literally like the last scene of the last episode. I love all of the props and animation. And of course, all of the songs in this series are so damn catchy. Also, I don't know if this is the right term, but like I love that abstract humor, like with the awkward silence. That shit is funny, and it's also what makes this series so endearing to me. Yellow Guy's dad is not allowed within a 10-mile radius of any school in the world. That man needs to get beat with a stick. He was perfectly creepy. Just the fact that he's straight up watching like porn with his son, and like his son is like, my dad's a computer. Also, because these videos are so short but packed with so much stuff, they're able to just throw in random shit that takes like a few watchovers to maybe see it. So for example, what you mentioned, the random Nazi sign, and the fact that they added it to an equation created by a Jewish man. Yeah. Each episode sort of like steps up their game, where it just gets more creepier and menacing and like grosser. And I love that. That scene with them decaying is like wonderfully disgusting. I don't understand why, but I think that it's the fact that they're like puppets or something. The idea of them having insides and stuff just for some reason makes it grosser to me.
Okay, episode 3. Yellow Guy notices a butterfly at a picnic. Then Duck hits it with a fly swatter and kills it, which upsets Yellow Guy and causes him to run away. Red Guy wonders what will happen as Yellow Guy is sitting on a tree branch crying. Another butterfly appears and Yellow Guy thinks it's a baby pigeon. The baby pigeon is named Trinkle. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm just gonna call him the baby pigeon. He starts to sing about how there's so much hatred, darkness, death, and fear out in the world. He says that it doesn't have to be this way just because they're different. He mentions that Yellow Guy doesn't know who the baby pigeon is and holds out his hand to tell them about love. Yellow Guy begins to feel tingly, which the butterfly tells him is the feeling of love, and he decides that he should learn more about it. The butterfly and Yellow Guy go to the sky, riding on a cloud as the butterfly flies. The butterfly, he tells him that if he follows him, he will see that love is everywhere. Yellow Guy, not knowing what love is, asks if it is in the sky. The cloud he is riding on tells him that it is a feeling. Yellow Guy thinks that he is in love because he is hungry, but Butterfly corrects him by saying he's lonely. Duck and Red Guy notice that he's flying in the sky. Red Guy is trying to decide if they should follow him, but Duck wants to finish the picnic. We meet the butterfly's friends. Duck and Red Guy have eaten the chicken and the eggs, which are now covered in what appears to be blood. So Duck and Red Guy decide to look for Yellow Guy. Yellow Guy says that he loves the tree and the stick, and the butterfly tells him that he is doing it incorrectly, and he must save his love for a special one. The butterfly tells him that he is confused. The tree tells a story of Michael, the loneliest boy in town, and how he was usually insulted by everyone, and now he lives underground. The butterfly tells Yellow Guy that everyone has a special person in their life, even Michael. The butterfly tells Yellow Guy that his heart beats like a drum, caring for his special one. One of the puppets tells him to be patient and that his special one will come. They show examples of love, and they tell him that love is perfect, pure, and protected with a ring. The tree says that it's the way it's supposed to go, and the way it's always been. The puppets say that love grows like a flower, and Purple Guy, is this Snap?
Oh my god, shut up.
I don't know what they're talking about with the Purple Guy.
You know, the purple guy. You know, the guy who's purple. You know, you got the yellow guy, the red guy.
Yeah, but it says Purple Guy in FNAF. Not FNAF. I don't know who Purple Guy is in Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. I don't know who they're talking about. Anyway, Purple Guy tells him that love is permanent and they all have to worship their king, Malcolm, and feed gravel to him, or else he becomes angry. They ask Yellow Guy, who is strapped in what appears to be a chair, to change his name and clean his brain. They tell him to wear a ring and he will never be alone. In reality, Yellow Guy freaks out and is confused, waking up where he is started sitting on a tree branch. Duck and Red Guy finally find Yellow Guy and give Yellow Guy a boiled egg. Red Guy says that they did it because they love Yellow Guy. A bloody caterpillar appears from the egg, calling Yellow Guy his father, which Duck kills with a fly swatter. And that's the end of the episode. The chicken picnic is so random, and I like it when Duck Guy kills the butterfly and says pesky bee. It's such an iconic line, and we see it in the TV show as well. For some reason, there's a missing poster in this episode that shows up at the beginning for the puppets, which I can't help but wonder if it means something. I love it when the pigeon says that everybody hates you and no one cares. It's funny. The butterfly, the pigeon, the little baby pigeon, the same thing. When the furry boy says harder when Yellow Guy pets him, when I first watched this, it made me uncomfortable and makes me even more uncomfortable every time I watch it. The story of Michael goes nowhere and it feels like a fever dream, but I love it. They're all like, everyone has a special one, even Michael, and when he doesn't have a special one at all and he's just being lonely. The whole special one thing feels homophobic, and the part when he says he's made for him and she's made for her and that's the way it's always been feels homophobic as well. When I watched this years ago, I thought that they were going to feed Yellow Guy to the king, but instead they must feed him gravel, which I find disappointing. I really wanted Yellow Guy to die. In the background, you can see the notepad and the clock, as well as Yellow Guy and Red Guy when they put him in the chair, which is a nice touch. I don't know what it means. I think it's part of like the TV show theory. I don't know. And the whole ending with the egg is gross and I hate it so much. And I like how this episode is satire about religion and marriage.
I love how this is just a huge metaphor for cults that prey on people when they're like in a very emotionally vulnerable state. The story of Michael is such a, like, it reminded me of those old like European folktales that are like really like creepy and weird in nature, like, oh no, this monster is gonna come and eat your toes if you're not a good boy. And like how they were all sort of just like, oh, even Michael has a partner or whatever. It for some reason it just reminded me of how like Disney will take those old scary like European folktales and be like, but let's make it cute. Oh yeah, and then like the subtle homophobia of like a marriage being between a man and a woman and how it's like pure. I love that. I've never seen Midsommar, but I'm just gonna assume that this is basically what it's about. Also, that pesky bee abomination that hatched out of that egg deserved to be aborted. You know, better late than never.
Episode 4. So this episode starts out with Red Guy, Yellow Guy, and Duck playing a board game, and Red Guy gets a card that says, what is the biggest thing in the world? He starts to ask the globe what's the biggest thing in the world, only for the computer Colin to interrupt him and start singing the lesson instead, and singing about himself. Red Guy attempts to get Colin to answer the question but is ignored. Colin proceeds to ask questions like, what is your name? Where do you live? What do you like to eat? Red Guy gets annoyed by Colin and tries to quiet him by first telling him they already have a computer and asks him to stop talking, and finally enraged smashes the keyboard. Colin gets mad and shouts at Red Guy, don't touch me. And the entire screen becomes filled with static and glitches out for a couple of seconds. The puppets are sucked into Colin's digital world. Colin proceeds to teach the puppets about avatars inside of it that are controlled by the real person. Red Guy finds this amazing and is interested and asks the computer what can they do in the digital world. After a long pause, Colin says that there are 3 things to do in the digital world. Yellow Guy and Duck are excited by this, but Red Guy appears to be bored. As time goes on, the lesson starts to get repetitive and extremely buggy, and the camera starts to zoom in on Red Guy as if coming from the computer screen. When Red Guy looks away from the screen, he sees his friends are missing and he realizes that they've been sucked into the digital world. He starts to hit buttons and tries to get them to appear, but Duck and Yellow Guy seem to be nowhere. Red Guy notices a red wire coming from the computer and starts following it from the door. Meanwhile, in the virtual world, the digital dancing continues and Red Guy is standing in the virtual world next to the door. Suddenly the scene breaks and what appears to be a low budget recreation of the first episode, and Red Guy opens the door and wears a motion tracking suit and is surprised about both what he sees in the room and the fact that he is suddenly wearing a motion tracking suit. Then his head pops and that's the end of the episode. I love that Duck shuts down Yellow Guy when he's saying no. Like Yellow Guy is like, what's the biggest thing in the world? And he's like, the mountain? And then Duck Guy is like, no. I love it when the computer yells, don't touch me, really loudly. It's funny how there are only 3 things to do in the digital world to show how they've forgotten the whole point was to answer the question, what's the biggest thing in the world? Something interesting to mention is that there are oats all over this episode, which I believe to be our sponsor of Roy. So basically Roy is sponsoring this TV show. I think Roy is sponsoring this TV show and that's why there's oats all over the place, like to make people buy oats. Also, you can see Roy in the corner of this episode when Red Guy is pressing buttons to try to get Yellow Guy and Duck back. He's in the corner hiding. So a lot of people seem confused by the ending of this episode with his head popping, but basically this is supposed to show that Red Guy found out he can make his own TV show on the internet instead of being paid and sponsored by Roy.
Damn, that's not what I thought happened. I think this one has my second favorite song in it. I love a good beep beep boop bop boop beep song. Computer guy was what's his name? He has an actual name.
Colin.
Colin? I'm not calling him that. Okay, never mind. Computer guy was so valid for freaking out when red guy touched him without consent. Those 3D graphics were so sick. Something that's happened in the past few episodes is like they'll start to question what the person teaching them is saying, and then they just get shut down when they go too far and ask something. They'll just get like shut down. Like the person will literally just be like, shut up. That is funny. Also, the way that I saw like the ending with his like head exploding or whatever is I was literally just like, oh my gosh, he took the red pill and now he like lives in reality now. Like I literally just sort of saw it as like a Matrix situation.
So episode 5. This episode starts off with Yellow Guy and Duck saying that something's different and something's wrong. The two inspect their surroundings and Yellow Guy comments that something's different. Yellow Guy says, is it this? And he points out a piece of bread. The bread starts singing and a can of spinach emerges from the cabinet and starts asking them if they're hungry. They basically sing about steak and stuff like food. And then a steak appears and hits Duck Guy with a fork and Duck Guy says, get off me. The spinach can and the steak tell them that certain foods will make their teeth turn gray. The steak does a tap dance routine and tells them to get healthy now. He is interrupted by a phone ringing and Duck Guy goes to answer it. He finds himself in a dark hospital room with the song continuously repeating on the television while Steak is saying you need to know what's right from wrong. The Steak explains that the body is like a house with different components in different rooms. Food comes through the chimney, the mouth, and greets the different organs in the house. The healthy foods are nice and stay for the party, and the unhealthy food have to leave through the cat flap. The phone rings again, and Duck Guy answers it. He finds himself back in the kitchen with the phone replaced for a sandwich. The spinach can and the steak repeat themselves, saying certain foods will make their gums turn gray this time. Duck Guy says something is wrong, but the spinach can interrupts, asking how to know which foods are healthy. The steak says the food groups can be sorted into healthy shapes and is a parody of the food chart, with different foods in arbitrary labeled grouped together. He then says that eating plain-looking foods will keep the body healthy and demonstrate it by pouring cream through the body model. Duck says he needs to go when he's interrupted and saying fancy show-offy foods that clog up the body with unnecessary details and pushes the model off the table and breaks it. The scene cuts back to the kitchen. Duck is grabbed by the fridge and says everything tastes great, but maybe they should wait before they eat certain foods. Meanwhile, Red Guy's head can be seen in the microwave behind him and Roy can be seen watching them from the ceiling. Duck Guy says that he has had enough and knocks over the camera by saying, I don't want to do this anymore. He wakes up in a dark operating room with a giant can standing next to him, which is eating him alive. Then we cut back to the kitchen. The steak and the spinach can are singing once again about which foods are good and bad. Then the scene cuts back to the operating room where the giant can starts eating Duck Guy's organ. The song continues on and the fridge says that everyone has their teeth turned gray by eating yeast. The steak, however, says too much yeast will turn their teeth gray. The spinach can offers Yellow Guy some onion paste, with the steak saying it wasn't onion paste and he shouldn't eat food from a stranger's plate. The entire band then begins singing Stranger's Plate repeatedly. The spaghetti morphs into Red Guy's face, red smoke comes out of the microwave, and a giant can continues eating Duck's organs while red mist, presumably blood, comes out of Duck Guy's intestines. The can leaves to be replaced by another one. Yellow Guy looks deep into his spaghetti while the chant in the background becomes screaming, and Duck Guy's screaming head appears to show him dead with X's over his eyes. The camera zooms out, showing the steak inside of the microwave. A giant can is now holding a pie made of duck. Yellow Guy is shown obese, having eaten many empty cans of Duck Guy, and the episode ends with the red phone calling again. Okay, so this is my favorite Don't Hug Me I'm Scared episode. I love it when the bread who's just jamming and using the peanut butter and jam as drums is saying food names. When Duck Guy says I don't want to do this anymore, you can see that they are actually in a set and not a house, which is proof that they're actors in the TV show. And you can also see Roy if you look close enough. I love the ringing from the phone. It's so ominous and it's great. The way the food teaches the puppets what's right and wrong food to eat is funny to me. Like Duck is all like, that doesn't make sense. And then they go do 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 do. Also, like, what the fuck is aspic? Like, that shit is confusing. He's like, the healthy food's like aspic. And I have no idea what that is. Do you know what that is?
You know, aspic.
I have no clue what that is. I find the spinach can's voice actor to be really funny. I don't know, but his voice actor sounds really silly. The part where Duck Guy gets canned doesn't gross me out. I actually find it funny and cool, and I wonder how they do that shit. But I like it when the meat said you're going to end up sad inside, and the pie turned into a sad pie. Yellow guy eating duck was awesome. I love the ending where the phone rings again.
Yeah, the doo. That shit was so catchy. I love how on the food chart there were cigarettes up there right next to the milk where it belongs. Taking into consideration the media theory, it now makes sense to me with like the whole canning thing of like literally canning Bird Guy because he's literally a product. That makes so much more sense to me now, because when I first saw that I was like, what the fuck are they like? Are they just trying to be like weird for the sake of being weird? Because there have already been a lot of scenes where they're literally just being weird to be weird, so I just sort of assumed like, okay. But yeah, the media thing makes more sense. That ending reminded me so much of like a plot twist to an Adult Swim short, like unedited footage of a bear or Too Many Cooks. Like, I was wondering why I enjoyed this series so much, and I think it is because I basically grew up on stuff like that.
Episode 6. This episode starts with Yellow Guy crying by himself while looking at a scrapbook. Then a lamp starts singing a very off-key songs about dreams and pulls Yellow Guy through a hallway while Yellow Guy says no more songs. A movie plays in Yellow Guy's head with Roy being the only person in the audience. The camera zooms in to show the theater and we see Yellow Guy in his bed while the lamp rubs his head and opens the curtains to the window. As Yellow Guy looks confusingly, once again the light switches on and the lamp starts talking. It starts standing and talks about having a bad dream. And then we see Yellow Guy drowning in oil. And when he's completely submerged, the screen cuts to black. Then we get to a scene where Red Guy is in the real world, where everyone looks like him. As he gets handed a file, he asks if it would be fun if the file would get up and sing a song. He sings a very short song, I am a file and you put documents in me, something like that, only for the other Red Guy to say no, that's very boring. Then we cut to Red Guy at a bar, where Red Guy starts singing a song of the first episode about getting creative. Then we see Roy watching him in the audience, who is the only one listening to him and watching closely. Red Guy is looking at the microphone comes alive, and he is transported to a different dark place all alone. But Red Guy continues walking only to find the camera and sees the setup of Yellow Guy's house. He sees that someone has been watching Yellow Guy and his friend. Red Guy starts pressing the machine's button, and as he does, different teachers from the past episodes appear, one after another. Roy shows up from the darkness behind him and reaches his hand towards Red Guy. Red Guy notices the power cord coming from the machine and starts to follow the plug. Just before he pulls it, he says, I wonder what will happen. Afterward, the show seemingly resets itself and the set of the first episode appears, where the puppets are their favorite colors. Red Guy is blue, Yellow Guy is green, and Duck is red. The calendar changes from June 19th to June 20th, and the sketchbook becomes alive and starts singing the creative song again. Okay, I love the double meaning of dreams in this episode. One meaning literal dreams, and the other meaning like dreams you want in life. The animation in this episode is really good. Like, I loved it. I love it when Yellow Guy says, you made me die. I find it funny. Like when Tony the Clock comes back alive and he starts singing about time, Yellow Guy's like, you made me die. Red Guy is so awkward when he says, I am on file and you put documents in me. In the back, there are a bunch of Red Guys. You can hear one of the Red Guys say, I am a cool guy, laid back and sad, which I find very funny. And I find the different teacher puppets to be really cool. Some of them don't make sense, but they're cool to look at.
I agree with everything you just said. Only thing I can really add on to that is it's the scene where Red Guy was just living like a normal life. Literally felt like a Black Mirror episode. Just like the vibe of it, because it was set in sort of just a generic normal world. But then you just have these fucking like Red Guys everywhere. And then I also liked how Yellow Guy had to relive all of the trauma he went through. That was really funny for me to watch. I feel like he deserved it. Okay, for example, all the men I didn't like in all of the Infinity Train episodes, that's sort of how I view Yellow Guy. Like, he doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve my hate, but I'm a hater. I don't know why. Yeah, so this whole series was just like amazing. I loved everything about it. I had a minimal idea of what it was about. The media thing makes sense. Whatever. But you know what? It was also fun just watching it and not understanding what was happening. The one thing I love the most that I haven't really talked about is how it was like heavily funded by fans. And because of that support, they were able to like create more episodes. I've said this before with a Hell of a Boss, but I love how creators have platforms where they can share their works and then not only gain fans and support, but also are given resources to make more of that. I mean, they shot so much into popularity that they got their own television show. I wonder what advertisements they played while like on the TV show.
Overall, I really love Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. It's such a well-polished, amazing written story. It's just really great, and it's really funny too. Anyways, you guys, those are our thoughts on Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, the web series. If you want to send us a voice message on Anchor, there'll be a link in the description to do so. We also have an Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok that we haven't posted on yet, which are at MidTakesPod, which will also be in the description below if I remember to write it. And we also will talk about Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, the TV show, if we get to 1,000 plays. So listen to our stuff when we get to 1,000 plays. Yeah, exactly.
We're in this for the long haul.
Yeah. I don't know how long we're going to do this, but we're going to do this for a while. And that's everything. So goodbye.